Hello and welcome to this episode of Behind the Bricks, our brand new podcast where we explore the ideas, the people and the places shaping the future of the UAE. I'm Luke Remington, Managing Director at House & House, and I'm joined by my co-host and fellow MD, Simon Baker. Today we're diving into one of the most ambitious projects in Dubai, Expo City. We're joined by Jason Quick, Senior Vice President of Delivery at Expo, who's been instrumental in turning this global event into a lasting, livable community. Jason, thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much for having me, Luke and Simon, and I'd just like to congratulate you on what you guys have built here in your business, and very happy to be on board here today.
It's really interesting. I was speaking to a colleague when your name came across and I saw your LinkedIn profile and I saw World Cup, I saw Olympics, I saw Jacobs, and I saw quite a few big names, and it kind of got to me, wow, you've had some history. You were kind of on people's radars when they're planning big events or they're putting big plans in place, wherever it is around the world. We're going to get this guy because he's probably done something here, seen what's worked well and what hasn't. So what I'd be really interested to start with, Jason, can you just give us an overview of your background and where you've come from?
Sure, Luke. Yeah, it's a bit of a club, actually. I think when you get involved in some of these transformational programs, you get sort of tagged into a club of, oh, that's a guy who does that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
And it's not something deliberate that you set out. When you start your career, it sort of just happens organically. Where I started with, I was a civil engineer graduate, not a very good graduate, I must admit. It took me a few more years than most in Queensland, and I started building roads. That was my first entry into the industry. I was a road building contractor when I graduated, and this is quite small time, nothing major. And coming from that sort of angle in Brisbane and Queensland, where I started, projects were fairly modest, but we thought they were big at the time.
Yeah.
They were fairly modest, and I knew there was probably more to it than what we had there. It took me to move out of Australia really and go abroad to seek bigger and better things, I guess, at the time. And my first opportunity was in UK. I worked on a large, it was very large at the time. It was High Speed Rail 1, CTRL in London. Okay. And that was my first exposure to a mega program, I guess. Mega program. It's a series of projects in one big sort of setting, and that sort of set me on my path to really going bigger,
right?
And taking the opportunity to really experience these big programs. I just stint in Dubai, funnily enough, back here for a couple of years. I worked on the Mach 2, the new airport. We built the first runway there. And then I got the call in to go back to London, and there was an opportunity on London 2012 Olympics. Wow. And again, it was the opportunity to do something, transformational at scale, and a part of London which was quite deprived and run down. And I thought,
it needed a lot of work, didn't it?
It was very, because I was there for CTR, the Channel Tunnel Rail Link. It was Stratford International Station. I remember the first day I got to Stratford, it was 2001, I think, and we were in the middle of the railway yards, and there was a waste dump full of white goods, old used white goods, and I'm like, what am I doing here?
Yeah.
What is this? A little bit.
You've come from Australia to this, right?
To this, and that was sort of my first exposure to it, and it was a bit frightening, I must admit, being in that environment. But to go there from what it was then to then being able to go to the Olympics and what we did on London 2012 and what we achieved, and what during the Olympics, it was quite difficult because there was a lot of negative perception about the cost of it and all that sort of stuff. But at the end of it, when we delivered it and the Olympics happened and everyone got behind it in the UK, it was just, for me, it gave me this, real sense of satisfaction.
No, what an achievement, right? To be able to stay, as you said, start from a load of old industrial land. It was a bit of a mess, really, wasn't it? To go and create something. I guess that doing a job like that's probably the bit that got you into the big boys club of developments, right, or projects or whatever, exhibition type projects.
And it's a bit addictive as well. It sucks you in. When you're in something of that scale. And going back there now and seeing the success of it post-Olympics as well, and what it's done to that part of London and the whole gentrification is really, it's quite satisfying, actually.
I guess having that on your CV would be something that then, when Expo came along, was that you got a call, or how did you get involved?
Yeah, well, so I was working. We were a part. I worked for a company called Lang O'Rourke. We were a consortium, I guess, of 3 companies, and we worked with another company called CH2M, which they were consultants that were bought out by Jacobs, and the people who I worked with on the Olympics, they won the program for the Qatar World Cup So I got the call to go over to Qatar to start working on the World Cup program, you know, all the stadia and all that sort of stuff, program management consultants. So that got me over to Qatar. That was my first sort of taste of being in the Middle East on that side of the scale, which again was great exposure and great experience and the scale of it and all that sort of stuff. But when I was there, it was a little bit early. It was, I up till then I was more delivery ended, and we were very early in the planning then. And I was getting the urge I need to build something. You know, we did a couple of small projects there, some clearance of the plots and of some of the precincts for the stadia. And my boss, who was there, happened to go across to Dubai when Jacobs and Mace, as a JV, won the program management consultancy for Expo 2020.
Right, so that was sort of natural progression into that next. You know,
I felt ready to go. Yeah. He felt ready to have me, and that brought me across to Dubai.
And the Middle East wasn't ready to lose you at that point, I guess.
That was, it was a bit of a difficult exit there, but you know, it was. It felt like the right opportunity, and that was 2016 when I came across the Expo, and that's where it all started there.
Wow, so 2016, so you've been there for nine years now, is it? I'm getting my maths right.
Almost 10 years,
it's
incredible.
So Expo was 2021.
2021, a year after.
So we've had the COVID. So you've worked through the COVID period.
All the way through. I would say probably we're the only project that did not stop one day. Actually, I tell a lie, there was one day that we stopped, and that was a Saturday where they had to do some disinfection program, but other than that...
Okay, so you were really up against it time-wise. So when you start talking about the sort of whole philosophy of Expo, I mean, you know, how's Expo set apart from all these other master developments? I mean, certainly in Dubai, you've seen them all, and, you know, you've been here and experienced them all. How do you think, how's Expo sort of different from them?
I went to Expo in 88 in Brisbane, actually, so I had a little bit of history from what expos were, but I felt it was a bit anachronistic. It was a bit old-fashioned, and it just wasn't really a thing anymore. But not when you're in Dubai.
Yeah. Well, I remember when it was announced. I think it was 2013, and Luke and I, we were probably just starting the company, and at that point, the property market went crazy. It sort of boomed. Yeah. And they announced this expo, and all these sellers, you probably remember, they were saying, "Oh, well, they'll put their price at 20%," but they didn't actually. No one actually knew. That's what you've just said. No one really knew what expo was. So you'd say, "Well, you put your price at 20%. What is expo?" They're like, "I don't know, but it's good." Yeah. You know, so the whole idea was that they understood it was a big focus on Dubai that was coming in 7 years, which is, I think Dubai's always done really well when it's had a plan in place. Yeah. Yeah. You know, going back to this whole 2033 economic agenda, 2040, you know, urban master plan. So when Dubai's got a plan in place, it does very, very well. And I guess people bought into the plan but didn't actually really know what Expo was at that point.
Yeah, no, I think you're right, Simon. And the other thing about it is it was in a location which I don't think people saw the vision of what it would be in the future. It was a bit out of the way and a bit out of the mind's eye and all that sort of stuff. It's down towards the border and all that. But I mean, you look at it today, it's right. We consider ourselves right in the centrality of the new Dubai area. So I think at the time it was it was a huge opportunity for Expo to showcase themselves internationally. Obviously, you know, like Olympic stars, like World Cups do, and all that sort of stuff. It was that chance for Dubai to really showcase what it can do, and not be satisfied with a status quo sort of, this is how Expos are done in the past, we're going to do it our way.
From your inception into Expo, what was your feel for it? Was it, I'm going to be here, but I'm going to be here for a long time? Let's be honest, Expo's finished quite some time ago. We're now talking 4 years after it's done. 25 million international visitors, I believe. Incredible, I think 70% of them were overseas. Yep. So how has it evolved, and are you still going to be there for the next 10 years?
Look, I think it'll be, I shouldn't say this, my final resting place. Look, I'm just going to say a thing about Expo and now what we're doing after Expo, and what's made it one of the big pillars of success is the leadership behind it. The leadership obviously starts from His Highness and the mandate that he's given us and continues to give us, and the confidence in that site and the ambition for that site. But the leadership who took us from Expo is still there now. Okay. And that continuity has been such a key factor, I think, from the beginning. You know, Her Excellency Rimal Hashmi and my boss, Chief Ahmed Al-Khatib, they're still there now. Wow. You know, and that vision that was set out, we're going to do this Expo. We're going to plan a new city where we're going to happen to have an Expo in. That was the mindset.
Was it always that way around?
It's always.
I wasn't quite sure if it was. What can you do with it afterwards? So I think that's always that. And that goes back to that Olympic thing, doesn't it? Where they built the Olympics, and then great, you have an amazing event, and then afterwards it's like, well, what can you? You're trying to do something. Whereas it always feels like Expo itself was master planned in a way that was, this could be a city.
Look,
and then obviously infilling all the residential aspects to it, which is obviously what you got to this stage now, right?
Yeah, and it's not an easy ride. You're trying to predict what might happen in 10 years' time in the market. I mean, look at what's happened over the last 10 years.
Yeah.
I mean, the whole market has completely changed, and what's right then. So the idea is to keep things flexible, to enable flexibility in land use and how you slice and dice things. I mean, but there are challenges as well. You're planning the site for one purpose, for a completely different purpose later on. They're absolutely completely different purposes.
Yeah.
Was there a lot of thought that had to go into, okay, if it's going to be, obviously the first port of call was make it an expo site with and it's got all the exhibition centres and all the other bits.
You have to plan for that, but when you plan for an expo,
you have to accept the fact that at some point actually it needs to be something quite different.
Yeah, absolutely, and you can't. I mean, you can try your best to do everything. It's going to be exactly the same one. For two completely different purposes like that is very, very difficult. So, as an example, for Expo, you have a back of house and front of house. You have a secure ring, a secure ring. Because you have to have access control and all that sort of stuff. We had a lot of security protocols for the Expo, and obviously it's ticketed and all that. So you have this back of house, front of house situation. So everything's sort of inward looking, and you have the back of house behind it. That we then have to think now for our Expo City to have it very fluid and easily accessible, and you have to get from point A to B in any location quite easily. Yeah. It's a completely different grid, So we did a legacy plan right at the beginning. So we had an idea of how we size our infrastructure, how we sized, how the roads will come in from the outer roads. We had to have that idea, so we at least had that from the outset. So right now, all the infrastructure that we built, or the majority of it that we built for Expo, we're retaining and we're using now for the new Expo City.
I read somewhere like 80% of the development that was done for the Expo would be used for the infrastructure going on to create the city. That's correct?
Yeah, that's correct. Again, we're going into a little bit of technical detail, all the pipe sizes, all the drainage, the stormwater, water, gas, all that sort of stuff. We sized it for what we're building, the ultimate for the legacy, for the whole development fit out, or the whole build out for the development. The only thing is, we only power, we sized it for the Expo, and now we have to expand that. We're building new primary substitute, more power and required for the full development, but 80% of it, and that's a huge success factor, I think, for what we've done from a legacy planning point of view. I think the other positive point is when we built our permanent buildings that were used in Expo for pavilions, we had our 3 districts: sustainability, opportunity, and mobility districts, and within that we had several buildings, and they were used for country pavilions, assisted pavilions. We either provided the space for the pavilions to fit it out with their own fit out to showcase their countries, or we assisted the smaller countries because we wanted to attract all the country or maximum amount of countries.
Well, you did a pretty good job. I was trying to get around them with my kids, and I was saying your feet were hurting before you'd filled out your passport, for sure. Yeah.
And that's 100. I think we ended up having 193 countries, and which was by far the most of any expo today. Yeah. But what we did do well is that we had a sort of a very flexible grid and flexible infrastructure that allowed us to repurpose, and this is what we're doing now. We built those at the time, and they were meant to be commercial offices, and they were exhibition spaces for Expo, but commercial offices for Legacy. But now we're converting those to residential, and we've been able to do that because of the flexibility of the way we designed it at the outset. So,
and this flexibility that you talk about, do you feel that was something key from 2014, 15, compared to, let's say, going into the Olympics? Was it the forward thinking and the leadership team surrounded by you, His Highness, that we get it done, and therefore more, I'm not saying more thought will go into it than the Olympics, but the success beyond, is it there? Was it there after the Olympics?
I think the Olympics was very successful, actually. I mean, the difference between the Olympics and what we've done at Expo, I think there's more temporary infrastructure at the Olympics because of the nature of the Olympics, of all the different events and all that sort of stuff. So a lot of the venues were temporary for the Olympics. Some remain, like the aquatics, the velodrome, the copper box they call it, which is like a multi-purpose, and they're very well used. You got West Ham using the stadium, so some things that were there, are being used in legacy very well, and others like basketball, for instance, hockey and what have you, they were temporary. They were moved out of the way. Even the International Broadcast Centre was huge. I mean, I think it could fit 3 A380s, if I remember correctly. It's a huge space. Now they use as an SME hub and a lot of small office spaces.
So they are using it as something.
And it's very, I mean, even back then I thought, okay, so really people are going to come out and use it? But they're using it. And I think that's been very successful, actually. And when I came to Expo, I was thinking of this approach when we were planning or replanning, because we did have a few goes at it, replanning our legacy for the Expo time. Again, we didn't get it right the first time. We had an idea. It was a framework, but then we've gone through a series of iterations to get to what we feel now is a very strong master plan. Took a few goes. And
I mean, your experience and obviously your foresight into knowing what you would need is obviously invaluable, right? So I think Expo is an interesting development from our perspective as sort of, estate agents selling the product. As soon as Expo came along, we were really, really big fans of the development itself. I think the big selling point to a lot of consumers, a lot of end users, was the fact that there is actually already a master plan. There's a city there, and we're infilling it with residential. Whereas if you take your biggest developers, likes of Emaar, they will tend to take a whole new site. They will literally, there's the desert, square it off, and go and start from scratch, which tends to mean that the residential gets built first, and then the community comes second. Whereas in Expo, you've managed to completely flip that on its head, right? So that's, I think, the huge selling point.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree with that. I mean, the fact that, I think that coupled with the fact that those who experienced the Expo and loved it, I think another story. I mean, I've got so many stories, but one of the stories when we open Expo, it's meant to be all about the countries. The countries are complaining because everyone just wanted to be in the public realm. They wanted to be in Al Wasl Dome. They wanted to be in the parks. They wanted to be, just picnic out.
Well, I think the whole experience.
So they weren't going into the country. They were all just enjoying.
I think a lot of people were here for the experience. I think where Dubai did very, very well with the Expo is it really put Dubai on the map. I mean, met a lot of people that came for Expo and they thought they were coming for meetings or whoever. But actually, a lot of them just were experiencing Dubai. So Dubai used it as a very, very strong magnet to bring people in. And some of those people said, look, I didn't really need to come to Expo, but I'd never been to Dubai. And I've met quite a few people who told me they wouldn't have come to Dubai if it hadn't been for Expo. But because they've now been once, they said, I'll certainly come back.
Exactly.
So
exactly. But that's a huge. I think those who experience that and know what it was like, and they want that feeling again. Those who are really interested in coming back to Expo want that feeling again. Being in the open, having the variety of offering. Having the experience. All that sort of stuff. It's not just a typical community. There's a bit of fun there. There's a bit of vibrancy. There's a lot of options and whatnot. So that's definitely for us a USP, I think, and that's probably been the success factor of how well the sales are going up until now.
When we look to the future, I mean, Dubai's always looking to the next 10 years. What does the future of Expo look like?
Even I am astonished by the pace of development that we're going through at the moment. There was a period after Expo, I guess a period of reflection. We done very well. Expo was great. We enjoyed it. How are we going to develop this site? Who's going to develop this site? It wasn't even decided then. It took a little bit of time, but once it was mandated that our leadership and the Expo sort of leadership would be the ones to develop the site because we were closest to it and we had the sort of the soul of it and the emotional attachment, it was right, we got to get going. And we didn't even really have a master plan locked down at that stage, but we knew we had to go. So we started our first projects. We started Mangrove, we started Expo Valley, we started Sky Residences without even finalising the master plans. We knew we had to go. And from there, it's just been momentum, and the sales have gone so well. It's like, right, we need to keep going. We need to and not only the residential stuff, we're now starting to look at all the other elements of what will make the city amazing. We've obviously got to have commercial offices. We've got commercial offices there. Some of the buildings that we have from Expo, we've already got several tenants in there. But commercial offices, parklands. We've got our nature reserve for our Expo Valley that we're building at the moment. We'll have gazelles and wildlife and all that sort of stuff. and several other, offerings as part of the overall. My bosses are very ambitious as well. They're always thinking, okay, what else? What else can we have? What will make us unique? What will make us better?
I can imagine you're always being thrown at you. Hey, Jason, why don't you come out with we want 100 gazelles instead of 50 or whatever.
It is quite Dubai, and build it and they'll come, as Simon's probably touched on numerous podcasts before. But is there anything you think that might be a bit too much to chew, or?
Oh, look, I think we got to be realistic. The market is very, very, very hot at the moment, and it's been for the last couple of years. So there is a capacity in the market to build that we're reaching a bit of an inflection point now. We're almost right at the limit. Resources are scarce. We're very ambitious to build, but the realism is that everybody else is as well. So we've
spoken to people who are struggling with contractors, and they're getting even basic things like buying concrete is becoming A, expensive, and B, difficult.
So we have to think differently. We can't just think this is the typical way to build things. Okay, what can we do off-site? How can we modularize things? Repeatability. How can we build something completely off-site and then bring it in as a kit of parts rather than relying on labour on site? How can we use technology to help us and do things better? How can we design things better using technology? All sorts of things like that. So I think it's our ambition to deliver is very high, but we've got to be able to have the tools and the resources to build it. And I think that for me is the thing that does keep me up a little bit. We need to. Our USP on Expo is deliver it on time, the quality, obviously sustainability embedded in everything that we do, and that goes back. But to be able to do that in the current market is a bit challenging.
The plan's always changing by the sounds of it.
Quoting my boss, we build the plane while we're flying the plane.
Wow.
And there's never a fixed master plan. The master plan will never be static. It's a myth, he says, and this is true for us.
I guess it kind of evolves as it goes on, doesn't it?
It has to always evolve because new things come up. We might find a new idea and we think, wow, that wouldn't it be cool if rather than do that, we could do that, and that will add so much value to people's experience of the place and the attractiveness of wanting to live and work and play in Expo City.
It's amazing.
Because when it comes to the more recently launched the Waha apartments, right, and they were quite funky and quite different and quite exciting, and I think that's really nice for Expo. So rather than just your typical building towers everywhere, which is fine, but coming up with something that's giving some people a variety where people will pay more money for larger units with a bit of space, less density. I think it's a big thing. I think it's going to become an even bigger thing in Dubai where there's so many towers everywhere, and the reality is, in terms of the traffic and everything else, how do you keep it as a really nice place for people to live with this sort of sustainability element at heart, really?
Like Simon said earlier on, is a lot of the expos that have happened previously, people didn't really know what they did, what became of them. Some people know that the Eiffel Tower came from the one in France, but whether it's
iconic,
a few, so you've got the expo, but what is going to make it different to all these other projects that were released every 24 hours? There's a new project. Were you looking around and thinking, well, we have the name, and we've got the nice logo, and we've got really good people doing this. What else was there that you're thinking that this really just does drive it forward, that obliterates all our competition out of there?
Well, we are very fortunate, I guess, to be in the centrality of the new growth centre of Dubai. And we have got an airport next to us that is going to be the airport of Dubai, and it's going to be huge, and eventually all the operations are going to move to that location. So, that's a huge attractor for all sorts of things there, and that is on our doorstep, our metro line, the way we're connected. First of all, we have the metro line is there. That will connect to the new airport, connects into Dubai. We've got an amazing road network that was based on the scale of the patronage for the event. We had on the last day of Expos, going back again, we had 400,000 people visit it on the last day, and to have you need to have the capacity in your
and that all worked all right on that day. It was pretty much. There was a bit of traffic,
a few operational challenges, but it worked.
I think if that I think if you can take a site and it's proven to be able to cope with that level of visitors on a single day, then it shows that you can make hopefully very sustainable, easy to live,
easy to get to,
a place where residents can I guess Sheikh Mohammed's got the vision vision for 2040 is to make it, the best city in the world. I think places like Expo, you can see them becoming.
Really showcase it.
Certainly, they probably feel a bit quiet now, but hopefully in 10 years, 5 or 10 years time, it's going to feel like a really lovely place to live with everything you need on your doorstep.
And it's
the sort of idea of a walkable city, right?
I think that's and to really answer your question, and it's about having everything you need on your doorstep. You talk about 15-minute city, and there's a lot of developments that talk about that, but I think we really truly will be. And look, let's face it, people don't want to be on the road.
Yeah.
You don't want to be part
I think certainly for the last 6 months, right, it takes you half an hour to get anywhere.
I know RTA are doing their best to expand, and they will expand and all that sort of stuff, but that takes time as well. But people don't want to be on the road. So we really, our advantage is, this is saying we've got the airport next door, metro connected. We've got the Dubai Exhibition Centre is going to be our big neighbour, and that whole operation will be there.
GITEX is gone there now.
Next year, and then onwards, DWTC, all their events are going to be there. So that's all happening on our doorstep as well. We've got the port, we've got everything around there.
Biggest dry docks in the world, right?
It's all
I think you were right. You mentioned Dubai's been shifting southwards for years. I mean, I remember when I first came to Dubai 20 years ago, Arabian Ranches was about the furthest you'd go. They'd say, only sort of mad dogs and Englishmen would go there. But now actually, you look at that, and the ranches, live there as well. That actually feels like it's pretty central. Expo, I think 5 years ago, or certainly I'm sure 10 years ago when you started working there, felt quite far out, and suddenly it's all feeling quite connected. So I think they had the plans they have here for 10 years down the road. Everyone else thinks they're mad, what they're doing, and 10 years later, light bulb goes off, and you think, oh, actually, that really makes sense.
Just to continue, everything in one location. I guess what other thing makes us unique is that we have the variety of offering in terms of entertainment as well. We have the Al Wasl Dome. We've got we will have an arena there. All the idea of the events that we were hosting during the expo, even since the expo, that will continue. So you don't have to leave. You want to go and see a great concert, it will be there. School, we'll have a school. We'll have a hospital. We'll have the ability to get around.
More shopping malls. Building a shopping mall, aren't they?
We've got EMA, and then we'll have our own. We'll do our own thing, and we're planning other things which. I can't talk about specifically here, but the things that we're talking about, it's just you wouldn't want to be anywhere else. And
that comes across in your excitement. I wonder, were you this excited going into the Olympics and Qatar because I can feel it from you. You've just done a pitch, and you're an engineer, and you've just done you can be a salesman as well.
Well, I think sometimes they're the best people. But
how do you pitch it? Let's look at that. How do you picture this place in 10, 15 years? It's like I feel that you're going to have artists on stages, and then you're going to walk to your lovely coffee shops, and you're going to have the gazelles and the zoos and the airport.
Peacocks everywhere.
Is there anything that competes against it?
I don't feel it will actually, and I'm only saying that because I know what the vision is. I know our master plan. I believe in it. I believe in the variety of what we're going to be providing, the connectivity, the internal connectivity. We're going to have so many different modes of ability to get around between, micro mobility, shuttles, walking. It's going to be a very outdoorsy. We talk about we talk about wellness and all that sort of stuff. All this is embedded into the master plan. Making it very the opportunity to be outdoors more. Longer during the year, even the hotter months. We want to make it very comfortable by using strategies for shading and cooling and all that sort of stuff to allow people to be outdoor more, and have that opportunity to be fit and all that sort of stuff.
Has it been amplified with the market conditions? So yes, the Expo's coming, and after we're going to do this nice development, but the Expo's coming, the Expo succeeds, the Expo transformed and did whatever it did. But the market amplifies with that. Dubai becomes a place where everyone now wants to go to live, and then you go in, and the boardroom just has better ideas and bigger ideas. It's just like you say, everything's changing.
And again, that attracts me to it as well, because it's so dynamic. It's not something linear. It's not fixed. There's not one day that I go to work.
Sounds like every day in the Expo office is a new different day, right?
And look, it's hard work because we're always challenged, but it's also very exciting because the things that we're doing. It's Dubai, right? We'd never do it anywhere
exactly.
else.
I think we're all very fortunate to be here in a place where funding's virtually unlimited, and people. But it's not just the funding; it's people have the people have the ideas, and being able to make decisions fast is very powerful. Because in most of Europe, unfortunately, they talk about it for 4 years, and then someone else makes a different decision, don't they?
The idea of ambition and optimism, all that, it's a little bit waning in those jurisdictions. Whereas here, it's ambitious as it's ever been. You know?
And is that a big difference, that you've not had the red tape to possibly deal with that you've had elsewhere, and therefore you can be more agile and change what you need to change?
Simon, agility, flexibility, ability for decisions. I mean, if something comes down the pipeline, this is the remit, we got to do this. It just happens. We just make it.
That's pretty exciting, right? Having a job that you can go to that you think we're building a city that people are going to remember for many hundreds of years to come.
The speed of development is it's incredible.
I looked at wonders of the world, okay, and I wasn't sure whether I was going to ask you this, Jason, because it depends how the conversation goes. But something remarkable in the world that spans human history, has artistic and cultural values, and is universally recognisable. Does this sound like something that future generations could be saying could be a wonder of the world?
Wow,
it fits into many boxes.
It's a big statement. Gosh, I would hope to think that we're building something that it's about building communities. People, we always think about, what would we do if we live here? How do we make it the best for if we were living here? What would we want to see? What would we want to do? We have this incredible thing in the middle, this Al Wasl Dome, which is a real landmark. But that opportunity to build something amazing that has the ability to cater for so many, and for people to want to come and live there and be very happy there and feel safe and secure and not want to leave. Wonders of the world, maybe maybe a bit of a stretch.
No, I hear what you're saying.
It's something that,
you wonder whether there's as much thought and stuff, Simon, that goes into other developers maybe that are looking at the land costs and the price.
No, sure, and I think the Expo obviously coming, as a project for Sheikh Mohammed, this project is coming from the top, means that it's something really special is being built. That's probably not all about the numbers, is it? It's not. They've had the Expo, they've turned an amazing site into what's going to become an amazing city to live in. So it's more about a nice overriding idea, as opposed to, of course, just take a patch of sand and how much money does it cost to build and how much money are we making out of it?
Sure,
I'm sure in some cases there's probably good questions about whether that's which way it's going on from that front. But I think the overriding idea that the government want to build, and it's one of their 5 key hubs, isn't it, for Dubai?
Yes, it is,
So I think that's a huge point, that they a bit like Expo itself. It's obviously cost a huge amount of money. Wasn't probably a particularly good investment if you just look at it in zeros and ones. But actually, when you then look at it from all the people that I've mentioned that we speak to that have come to Dubai, and all the population, the growth that's gone on in the last 3 or 4 years, then obviously it was a very good investment. But sometimes you have to have the foresight to see that. And I think we're quite lucky to live in a country where they definitely have the foresight, don't they?
Absolutely.
They've got that in bucket loads. So
and that's again, in other jurisdictions around the world, that ability to think long term, because of the political situation or what have you, just don't have the ability to do that. Whereas here, everything is always 5-10 years ahead. But even looking that far ahead, we got a vision, and this is where we want to get to. But even leading up to that, how can we make it better? What else can we do? What's the global trends that will make this even better? And that's the combination.
But those huge projects take time, don't they? I mean, you've been doing it for 9 years, and you've got to but it's the reality, though, isn't it? It's so these things do take time, and I think the greatest things in life probably do take a bit longer, right? We live in a world.
And I think that site, when I turned up, there were camels on it. There was a camel farm. There was camels. It was earmarked as, I think it was called Exhibition City, and a little bit of development had started on that site. There was a couple of buildings there, some unfinished stuff when things got put on pause during the GFC. Then the whole Expo thing happened. But when I turned up there in 2016, we were just leveling. It was sand dunes and camels and whatnot. And now you look what's there.
Amazing.
And what we're going to do.
It's like the pictures you see of Shakeside Road.
Yeah, there was one lady the way in the. I remember going to the Hard Rock Cafe before the marina was getting built. It was just fun. Yeah,
I think if the wonders of the wheel was probably a bit tongue in cheek, but I do think it could be one of those developments that in 20, 30 years that our kids could be talking about Expo City, and it would be known whether it's in New York or in London. It could be talked about famous towers in the world, or to have a development or a city that's going to be talked about.
Probably an amazing legacy that you can look back and your kids can say, "Hey, my dad built that one." So I think that's pretty amazing. So
I think
thank you for doing such a brilliant job, Jason, and being part of an amazing team.
Part of an amazing team.
And you've given House and House an opportunity to sell some lovely properties. So thank you for that as well.
Our next launch will be, I think, next week. So.
Inside scoop on the next launch.
Are you literally involved in everything, Jason? Do you know everything, ins and outs of everything? Because it's not small, but if anyone is listening and they haven't heard too much about it, then it's not something small. But are you involved in everything? Because it seems like you know an awful lot, other than the maybe the roads going in and the traffic lights, and when the sales are happening.
We're working on that as well.
The electricity and.
Look, again, I'm very fortunate. We work very closely with our Chief Development Delivery Officer, Ahmed Abtib, and we meet on every day.
Oh, wow.
And we're brainstorming every day. We're troubleshooting every day, and we've got to think about what's happening now, what's happening in the near term, planning that, and then look what's happening long term. And we meet every day, and so we are very connected in that regard. And again, we're always looking at what else can we do, how can we do things better and whatnot. But taking your point, Simon, if we are recognised as a benchmark, if communities, public planners, architects, municipality planners are looking at benchmark, I'd love it if we were a benchmark for how you design for legacy, how you design communities for legacy and long term, and all the aspects. If we're considered a benchmark, but I think we've done a pretty good job.
Well, I think you're doing a very amazing job, and look forward to. We're excited to see what the next couple of years hold. So, Jason, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
I'm sure everyone listening really appreciates all that information. It's really interesting to hear where it's all come from.
We talked about this being a fascinating chat, Vic, before this, but it was the way you've come across, and I feel your passion for it, and it's. I think you've definitely, anyone that's listened to this, if they didn't want to buy there, they might be now. So
sales opens open 9 till 6.
I'll get the exact time, and I'll come back to you on that.
Brilliant. But thanks ever so much, Jason. Thank you.
Thanks
so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.